Hi, and welcome to Matt Holman Talks Mental Health, the podcast where I have the opportunity to catch up and have conversations about mental health with amazing humans. This is the very last episode of the Pod-A-Thon, number 24, and I'm so happy to introduce this conversation. Matt Jones, welcome, Matt.
Hello, and well done.
Thank you. We're not finished yet, so we've got about 30 minutes or 25 minutes to go. I'm counting every second. But the reason I asked Matt to join me for this last episode is going to become quite clear, I think, because Matt is the branch director of Basingstoke Samaritans, where I'm a Samaritan, and I talk about my role within Samaritans openly. I love my role there, and Matt's a great leader when it comes to running the branch of Basingstoke. We met in a Samaritans training room many moons ago, about 6 years ago, actually. That's when I started my journey, and I remember Matt being there. I think it was on a recruitment evening or just sort of standing in the corner telling us all these stories of what happens and why it happens and how it happens, and it just inspired me more to want to participate in becoming a Samaritan. I've loved the journey ever since. So yeah, it's great to see you. It's Matt's birthday as well, so I'm going to say that on this because you're taking time out of your schedule today to come and talk to me on your birthday.
I mean, I've had to cancel so many
I know
so many events and things for this, but I'm happy to do it.
Thank you so much for rearranging your schedule for us.
No, thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks for giving me something to do on my lockdown birthday.
Oh, mate, honestly, it's a pleasure. So introduce yourself, Matt. Tell people a little bit about yourself if you can.
Okay, so I'm Matt, and I've been a Samaritan this is my 9th year actually. So heading towards my decade of supporting people. As Matt said, we met a few years ago now.
Yep.
I've been the director at the Basingstoke branch for the last year and 4 months, I think it is.
Yep.
It's been an interesting time to be a director, making sure that everybody is safe, making sure we're not breaking policies, making sure we're not breaking laws. It's been an experience I wasn't expecting to have, but it's been enjoyable as well. And the reason I became a Samaritan is in my family, we've experienced a number of suicides. And I always wondered if maybe they'd had a chance to talk to somebody, then maybe what happened wouldn't have happened. So that was partly the reason that I first became interested in being a Samaritan.
And we're going to delve into some of these conversations around mental health as the journey and everything else that you've been through, like in your life as well. So
okay.
Thank you for sharing that as well up front.
That's right.
I really appreciate that. And so, for everybody that listens to this, please, safety is paramount in all of these conversations. If anything that Matt and I discuss is something that you feel uncomfortable about, please switch off. Please do take care of yourself. You can always call Samaritans if you want to talk about any of the subject matter that we're going to talk about as well. Numbers free, as I say on all of them, and I do a wrap up at the end, and I always give the number 116123. I get into trouble if I got it wrong with the director of Basingstoke on this session. So let's get into this conversation, because I want to know more about you and your life with mental health and your journey. And it doesn't mean it's all going to be bad. It's just how you would interpret that.
Okay. Well, I interpret mental health to be a mirror image of physical health, to be honest. Mm-hmm. That at any given point I'm on a scale and I might be feeling quite good mentally and quite tired physically, or vice versa. And I don't really like to think of them as separate, because my body houses my physical being and also my mental being. So for me, they should be looked at in conjunction.
Yep. Very good. And what about the journey of your life then? Over your life, any impacts, any moments that you can reflect on that you want to share?
I was bullied at school and I didn't really ever talk about it. I just got on with it. My family, I hope they won't mind me saying, they don't necessarily talk about feelings, which is ironic given that this is a time to talk day. But we deal with things with love, very much loved, but I just dealt with bullying by not dealing with it really.
Right.
So, and I'm sure it had a massive impact on me, but I can't really remember.
Right.
I've put it out of my mind to some extent. So I expect some counselling would help.
Yeah, maybe. If it shows itself and you sort of recognise that's sort of showing itself and starting to cause you some concerns or anxieties, maybe.
Yeah.
But I guess what year was that when
Well, now
experiencing.
that's giving away that today's my 47th birthday. But
Oh, that doesn't mean a year. How old were you? Should I say?
I'm sorry.
I should have. Well, anyway, you've told us you're 47.
Well, it would have been
now,
the
so happy
80s.
47.
The 80s.
Okay, right.
And
Yeah,
you know, it wasn't the best decade for
no.
recognizing that people had emotional needs, I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, you know, that will be, and bullying is something that is such a big impact to people's mental well-being overall. When
Yeah.
you know, when you've been the victim of it and you've experienced it from one side, it stays, and it will, you know, it will maybe show itself in other ways perhaps. But
I mean, it makes me loathe it. I cannot bear it. When I see it around other people, it makes me feel quite vicious. But
does it?
Yeah.
Right.
Towards a bully, I don't accept it in any form. If I can do something about it, then I do. So maybe that's how I'm dealing with it.
Possibly, yeah. Possibly sort of going on that quest of, you know, righting the wrong and trying to make sure people are not feeling that they're vulnerable to the bullies as well. And I'd like that.
Yeah.
You know, we should all be doing a bit of that, shouldn't we? We should all be shouting out if there's something that's not right with somebody treating somebody wrong. Any other sort of impact moments that you can think of where things might have changed for you?
Well, I think my lowest point was probably in 2006, 2007. I'd come out of a very long-term relationship. I was living in a rented flat that had mold on the walls. I wasn't in a great place in terms of my job. I was earning quite a lot of money, but I wasn't very happy. And I could feel myself sinking into a bad place. Yep. I don't think I ever got as far as contemplating suicide or even thinking about it, if I'm honest. But I definitely was at a very low place. I think I got to. It was another February, so it was probably another birthday, and they do have a tendency to come around, obviously, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
But also to allow you to think about where you might want to go in the coming year. Well, they do for me, and I just thought, I can't go on like this. I've got to do something to change the way I was thinking about myself. And I did it by going to an organisation called the Brahma Kumaris.
Okay.
And they offered free courses in what they class as Raja Yoga meditation, which is meditation, yoga of the mind, I should say.
Right.
So that was about positive thinking, mindfulness, learning how to respond differently. And I think the biggest thing I picked up from that was that I don't have control over anything other than myself.
Right.
So how I try and live my life now is how I respond to things is the only thing I've got control of. So if crap is going on around me, I can choose to be taken by it and, you know, push with the tide, or I can try and think how I would want to respond and respond in the best way for me.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And that's been a useful tool for you, has it?
It really has, yeah.
Yeah. And what was it called? Sorry, what was the name?
So they're called the Brahma Kumaris.
Brahma Kumaris. Okay.
Yeah. So I think I think it's some offshoot of Hinduism.
Right.
And they had a very lovely Palladian mansion just outside Oxford, which is currently being renovated. And it was all free. You know, you could buy books in the gift shop, or you could donate if you wanted, but they didn't expect it.
Okay.
And it was all about trying to bring the world to a better place, and that is what they do. They do a minutes to think together every now and again, when every centre in every country that they're in comes together at the same time, and they all think positively about the world. So
wow.
I'm revealing spirituality you probably didn't know that I had.
I didn't, and I love it. I think it's fascinating that you've got this sort of this way of seeing the world through that, and launching all that positivity at the same time.
Yeah, so it's because I'm quite a cynical person, so it does fight with the innate cynicism that I've got, but at the same time I do really think if I can be positive, then positivity will come back to me.
Okay. Yeah, you're a big fan of the universe and
I am. I do. Yeah.
Affirmations and things like that.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I started doing a little bit of that during COVID and or lockdown, or whatever we want to call it. And a few of them did come out actually, which is good. And I think it does work personally. You know? And it's a personal experience, isn't it? It's
yeah.
What you put in. You get back what you put into it. If you sort of just don't bother doing too much, you're not going to get too much.
Well, I do think if you're thinking negative thoughts, I do think that sends out negativity into the atmosphere. Yeah. You know, I've got people I used to work with would probably say I had quite a strong personality, and if I was in a bad mood, it was obvious.
Right.
Because I'm usually quite happy. I'm very much a, the cup is usually more than half full for me.
Right.
But when I'm not in that mood, my moods are quite dark. And it was obvious to everybody around me that I was in what they would class as a strop, and maybe I needed to pull myself out of it. That was what I would class it as, actually.
Right. Okay. Fine. And did you?
But
did
my
you
bad moods don't last.
Could you recognize that though when they were looking at you saying you're in a strop?
Yeah.
Would you be able to sort of accept that and
They'd
say,
go very quiet because
right,
because I'm quite a vociferous and loud person normally.
right, yeah,
I'm the one having the laughs and the jokes in the office, and unfortunately when I wasn't in the right place, I would go quiet, and I would put a kind of blanket of quietness and and I suppose a downward feeling on the team.
right.
And then very quickly they realize that I'm incapable of holding a bad mood for very long. So even if I'm aiming to be angry with somebody and really, be bitter, I forget usually after about an hour. So that's a positive.
Oh, I think it's a huge positive, isn't it? It's sort of like no grudges, just let's get
Not
over
if you
it.
want to hold a grudge, it's not, but
Well, yeah, please don't hold
in
anything
terms of
against
putting
me.
out positivity, it's a positive.
Yeah, don't hold anything against me, please. I've
No,
been
never.
being nice here,
You have been brilliant, and you always
best.
are.
Oh, thank you. I do appreciate that. I just find it fascinating, sort of this journey that you've been on through your life, these sort of evolutionary moments where things have maybe changed. And that journey, you mentioned it in your opening actually, as to how you came to Samaritans. And, there was some other things going on, of course, that sort of made you sort of look at this as an alternative. So why Samaritans? Can you put your finger on why it was Samaritans?
When people ask that, I can never really pinpoint it.
Okay.
I really like being able to help people without having to be in really involved in their lives.
Okay.
I suppose. Yep. So as you know, being a Samaritan, you just don't give anything away about yourself.
Yep.
It's not about me, it's about the caller, as we put people through in training. So I can give all I can give, but I'm protected in some way.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've got a different name when I'm a Samaritan, as you have.
As I do, yeah.
Yeah. So we and a lot of Samaritans choose to have another identity in effect, so that you can step away from some of the hard things that you hear, because obviously we do hear some very distressing things at times.
Yeah. It's true, and we did have a little debate at the beginning, didn't we, what name we should use? But then I realized that I couldn't use my Samaritan's name really, because for 23 episodes everybody's known me as Matt. So it probably wouldn't work. We'd have confused the hell out of each other, I think. But you're right, it's that stepping away from I was going to say real world into the Samaritans world, but the Samaritans world is the real world, right? It's
very much the real world, but I don't necessarily want to bring that real world home.
No.
So as you know, I'm Jamie at Samaritans, and the way I look at it, Matt, who I am obviously, arrives at the centre, and I leave him in the foyer, and Jamie goes in and does whatever Jamie's going to do as a Samaritan, and then Jamie gets left at the centre and Matt comes home. Yeah. So, and I suppose it sounds a bit wanky, but that's how I think about it.
No, it's not at all. And I'm the same. I think there's one time where the worlds have collided for me, where I've had my Samaritan's name and my real name used by two different groups of people in the same place. When I did a charity football match for Samaritans a few years ago, all my mates are calling me Matt, and all the Samaritans are going, who's this Matt? And calling me by my Samaritan's name. So
that's what new volunteers say, don't they? Don't you get confused? And very quickly, I didn't. No. Very quickly, I became Jamie for the purposes of Samaritans.
Yeah.
Being the directors is slightly more complicated, because sometimes I have to be Matt or Mathew for official reasons, and then I'm thinking, well, I'm not. And then recently I had we've just had the electricity provider changed, and they had it down as Jamie, and I obviously went back as Matt, and they were saying, well, who are you? So then I was thinking, who am I? I said, it's a bit of a deep question from your electricity provider.
Did you go back with who are any of us?
Exactly.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I always remember when I was doing marketing and they asked me if I had a surname, my Samaritan's name with a surname, and I just went, oh my God, I don't know what to do. I'm stuck. Like, cannot compute. I don't have a surname and I can't use my real surname.
I can't even write the name Jamie. That's the real problem, because it's not my name.
Which is a bit of fun when you have to sign into the book when you walk in every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really fascinating, and let's talk. I hope you're okay talking just about Samaritans at this bit,
If you want,
because the funding for this, the donations that people have very generously put in for this charity, Pod-A-Thon event, half of it's coming to Basingstoke, to help support callers. What's that money going to go towards? Because I want people to realise what it really is going to help.
Well, the party line from our central office would be that it costs £5 to connect a caller to a Samaritan.
Yeah.
So, and that £5 might be a snap. So those are calls, I don't know if you've talked about it in your podcast before, but calls where a caller is not ready to talk. They may not want to talk to a man, they may not want to talk to a woman, they may not be ready to talk at all. So they ring, we answer the phone, and the phone goes down. That still costs £5 as a connection.
Yeah.
So the money that you are very kindly raising and your very kind donors are giving is going to allow us to keep on going, because we have to self-fund.
Yeah.
As do all Samaritans branches.
Yep.
We obviously get money from government in certain areas. I think the Ministry of Defence give us some money towards supporting veterans, and the Ministry of Justice as well, I think, in relation to prisoners. And obviously we both know that the number of calls from prisoners have gone up hugely over the last year.
Yep.
And they're not always the easiest calls to deal with.
No. And just in terms of sort of calls and sort of give insights, and in terms of sort of where the numbers are at the moment, do you know what the latest stats are on calls in terms of number of people calling Samaritans right now?
I don't have the figures, but they've definitely gone up during the last 6 months. And initially when COVID's first reared its head in the spring of last year, it was the email service that was really impacted. I don't know if your listeners know that we do support callers through email as well as telephone calls. And I imagine a lot of people who would have liked to have called are maybe at home with their abuser, so they don't have that luxury, or they just don't have the space or the privacy to make a really deep call. So the number of emails actually went up. But I think it's leveled off now again, so that both services are being used in a higher level. But the callers are there.
Yeah, I mean, I can vouch for that as well from every shift that I've done in the last few months. Well, over the course of COVID, really, every time you switch the phone on, it's ringing. I think that sort of says it all, doesn't it? You're not sat there waiting for a call. It's
we have the dashboard, don't we? And the worst time is at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's the latest duty that we do in our branch, and I very often do that duty. And the worst dashboard I saw was 47 callers waiting at 3 o'clock in the morning to speak to somebody, and the person who'd been on the call the longest, or who'd been waiting in the queue the longest, had been there for 17 minutes. So that's somebody who felt able to hang on for 17 minutes. Obviously there are probably people who didn't feel they could hang on, and we'll never know whether that meant they didn't hang on in life. Hopefully they did.
Absolutely, we can only hope.
We never know. Which goes back to my point about why I wanted to be a Samaritan, because I don't necessarily want to know. I want to give all the support I can for the purposes of that call, and then I want to step away and look after myself, really.
Yeah, and the support network within Samaritans is very, very strong, isn't it? With the support of our leaders and yourselves and the directors and all of those people that we've got around us. And I've had my challenges, and I document them in public, around, and we've talked about it a lot. My personal challenges at home, and I've used my colleagues with Samaritans to talk things through, and my mentor is just an angel to me, who's given me a lot of counsel, and just a safe space to talk about things, and I think that's what you build as well, isn't it? Is that sort of that network of support within Samaritans. I've always found that. I know you're in a team of people as well yourself, but it's such an important part of it.
Well, my ethos is really that we need to be there for each other first of all, because if you're not okay, then you're not going to help a caller.
Yeah.
So that I always check with who I'm on duty with, how are you feeling? And I'd like them to do the same with me, because sometimes I'm not, you know, we all have our down days, don't we? Especially at the moment.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't want to talk to anybody, but I'm there.
Yep.
But you've got to recognise your own emotional level, I suppose.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And so just knowing somebody's there, I think sometimes is just as powerful, isn't it?
Yeah.
To know that I could pick up the phone and talk to you, or I could talk to another one of the volunteers, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just a support mechanism that, you know, that's ultimately what Samaritans is there for anyway, isn't it, for people?
Yeah. I mean, and obviously today's time to talk day, isn't it? And
yeah.
I got out of bed this morning, and I won't say I bounced in the slightest. It was more of a creak, and oh God,
well, you're another year older. Yeah,
I could really feel it this morning, and I was feeling a bit, I won't say blue, but you know, what was I going to do today? Obviously, I've got this, which is brilliant because it's actually punctuated the day.
Yeah,
I haven't seen my family because I'm not actually from Basingstoke, so I haven't seen my family since September. And I'm missing them.
Yeah.
But, you know, we will all get together one day soon, all of us. But I've had multiple messages. I've got phone calls planned this afternoon. Brilliant. So in terms of talking, I've been very spoiled.
Right. Yep. Well, you get to talk to me, right?
Well, that's the cherry on the cake, isn't it?
After 24 hours of doing this, you get to talk to me. I
just I can't believe how switched on you still are after all that time and no sleep.
Well, it was the very sugary tea that I was drinking. I did have a sugar load just before we were coming on, and I just like biscuits, tea. But I feel good, you know. But these conversations make me feel great, and I think that's something we want to try and sort of push out there. Is actually definitely having a chat. And you've said it, and you know, I'm saying it from from this physical experience I'm going through of feeling absolutely shattered physically. Although I say that, I don't feel that bad, but you know, it's just that realization, isn't it, that actually talking to other people can make you feel a bit better. Yeah.
Well, it's just re-energizing, isn't it?
Yeah. That's why 24 different people conversations was.
You're going to be so tired tonight that you won't sleep.
Well, this is it. But you know, if it was one person for 24 hours, I don't think it would have the same impact. You know, I think it would have the honeymoon part of it would have waned quite quickly, I think.
Yeah.
But having 24 very quick sort of consecutive conversations, been fantastic.
It's a bit like speed dating, isn't it?
Yeah, but I haven't got a favourite. I go with all of them.
Well, that's good. I don't know what that makes you in terms of a romantic partner, but you know, good.
I'm just open for everything. I just, you know, everyone's equal in my opinion. Everybody's equal. Everybody's entitled to their own view, opinion, feedback, whatever it is that they're going through. I think it's so important, and you know, we need to capture and harness that, because that's what this is all about. If I can find where it is, you know, it's just about talking. You know, and actually, mental health doesn't have to be the title of the conversation. If you think about it, it's just about, you know, how are you feeling, and if you're feeling low, if you're feeling happy, they're both impacts to our mental well-being, and we just should recognize that and normalize it. You know, the calls that we get in Samaritans are lots of the times they're people who are struggling, you know, and that's a mental impact. You know?
Well, we both know that a lot of the time it's well, not all the time, but many times it's just people who are lonely, who haven't talked to anybody, and whilst they don't necessarily want to talk about their feelings, I do believe we should allow them to talk a little bit, just so they're hearing another voice, which goes back to the point that you just made, doesn't it? That you get a recharge from being in communication with somebody.
Yeah, and you're making those neural connections, you know, with others, and then you can feel that and sense that, and when you can talk to somebody and you know they're listening, you know, that's what I try to train in the world that I do outside of the Samaritans and this podcast stuff. It's, you know, it's all about educating people on a simple skill called listening, to enable them to be able to listen properly, and not just sort of constantly be thinking, oh my God, what do I ask? What do I say? And what should I ask next? And sometimes you don't need to ask anything next, because one question can be enough, you know. Tell me how you're feeling and let's go with that and see. You know, once we accept it societally that it's okay to say I'm not okay, we can do good stuff, I think. Yeah.
Well, I'm feeling much better after talking to you, so thank you.
Oh, well, you know, it's what it's about, mate. You know, we're here for each other, and when we're feeling low, let's catch up and talk and everything else.
Well, thank you very much.
So I'm going to wrap this up now, because I want to get this out before 12, because that's the magic number then, at noon to noon, and then we're done. Matt, pleasure. I knew it would be. You know, it's your birthday.
Thank you.
You're the best.
Thank you on behalf of all of us for putting this together, for knackering yourself out, and for opening up the dialogue.
You're more than welcome. You really are. And, you know, for all of my Samaritans family that are listening, anybody that is listening and tuning into this, I send lots of love and support and, you know, and all the positive energy that we can share to everybody, and to anybody else that's listening who hasn't run away because they've just heard me and Matt talking about Samaritans for the last 20 minutes. You know, and actually, if anybody is interested in becoming a Samaritan, you know, please do check it out, because it's not for everybody. I understand that. But some people are, you know, really into that thought of saying, "Oh, can I help other people?" And it's a great organization. And, you know, I came along, I've got my own story behind it, but I came along because I wanted to do something different. I wanted to help people, and Samaritans was the best option. And I like green, so, you know, that seemed to sort of go in the favor of it as well.
We all have to like green, don't we?
We do. So brilliant stuff. Listen, I want you to go and have a great day. I really do.
Yeah, I'm going to blow the candles out on the cake now.
Go and have your carrot cake. Enjoy your Waitrose carrot cake.
I will. Thank you very much.
Extra special. And everybody listening, or anybody listening, if you are listening still, know there is always a safe space to talk. If you need to talk to somebody, Samaritans, and we've talked about it a lot, but Samaritans really is there to just listen. We are there to support you when you're going through whatever it is in your life that you need to talk to somebody about. Don't fret. Pick up the phone. Don't hold it in. Don't feel isolated and lonely. Samaritans, we're all waiting to listen. And so please do call 116 123. Matt, Jamie, it's been a pleasure.
Matt, you too. Have a good rest.
I will. Thank you.